And I remember looking at Jim Biden and saying, how are you guys getting away with this? Like, aren't you concerned? And he looked at me and he laughed a little bit and said, plausible deniability.
Wow. Remember that? But the media largely ignored those claims back then until now. And here with more, New York Post columnist Miranda Devine. Hey, Miranda. When you look at what the media's coverage of that, I mean, he's talking about details of Joe Biden knowing about his son's business dealings and Joe Biden's influence and involvement in this. And the media barely covered it. Look at that. MSNBC, a little more than a minute. CNN, 0. ABC, 0. NBC, 1:30 about. And CBS, 0 minutes. Fox covered it. But this was extremely important, especially before an election.
Well, exactly. The New York Post story broke on October 14, which is more than 2 weeks before the election. It should have been covered. And instead, it was actively suppressed. It was ignored. We heard Project Veritas had these CNN morning news conference meetings that were leaked. And in there, they said, look, we're not going to cover this. They were proud of it because they said there's nothing new in the New York Post's information. Well, there was a lot of new stuff in what we published from Hunter Biden's laptop, and that included, for the very first time, evidence that the then Vice President Joe Biden knew about what was going on with his family's influence peddling schemes around the world and was actively involved. Now, we published an email to that effect, and later on, Tony Bobulinski backed that up with further evidence of his own. All of that was a story, and yet you had not just active suppression, but you had big tech locking our Twitter account, throttling the story on Facebook. And then you had 50 intelligence operatives signing a letter saying that this looked, even though they had no idea, they hadn't seen the laptop, looked like they hadn't even read our stories, said, oh, this looks very much like a Russian disinformation operation. And that, of course, was the green light to all those media outfits like CNN and the Washington Post and NPR and so on and on, to pretend that our story was Russian disinformation, that we effectively at the New York Post were acting as Russian agents. It was all a ruse to get their man over the line in the election, to get Joe Biden across the line with zero scrutiny into what really is a fishy story. And now, of course, they're reporting it because they think that they've won.